my wife and I moved here from Charleston, South Carolina, and we went to a church down there that was, I hate to call them mega churches, but it was a very big church. They had multi-campus, online, all that sort of stuff. But their biggest thing was getting you plugged in. And so my wife and I both served there. So when we moved here, we knew we wanted something like that church. My wife and I both were sitting in the service when they first told us about this partnership, with Rooted and the Nairobi Chapel and all that. So we were at that service when we first found out about it, and I remember immediately thinking, okay, 10 weeks, sure, probably not for me. And we didn't know exactly what it was going to entail at that moment. Jennifer immediately wanted to do Rooted, and she was asked to do the pilot, and she did that. So, but for me still, it was like, okay, well, I wanted to do the small group, but I didn't want to do this class, like, just to be honest. 10 weeks was a lot. My schedule here is so varying, to say the least, but it's also a lot of hours. It's, rarely do I only work 40 hours. It's usually more, in the lines of 50, 60. So I was like, how am I going to ever find that time? Especially when they were first doing it, which was, I want to say it was in the spring, but when they were asking me to do it, I was like, I don't know that I have time. So that was my first kind of introduction to Rooted. Then Jennifer, my wife, she did the pilot. She then went on later and did another group with all women, and then she was asked to lead finally. And we didn't know at the time that she was going to end up leading the group that I was a part of. All I knew was that Wes, who was the production director at the time, wanted to get a group together of volunteers, production specifically, but volunteers from Fishers, and have a group like that together. That ended up not working out, but Jennifer was asked to lead, and she ended up serving with Wes, and so we were in the same group. But it took her going through two of them, and the third one I finally was like, I was definitely like kind of drugged into it. She had said, you really need to do this. Yeah, when I officially knew I was signed up for the Rooted and we were doing this, honestly, I didn't even really, like, my wife had said, check your schedule, make sure it'll work with this, and ask for the days off, and be prepared, basically. I didn't do that. I knew that there were going to be some days that I could make it no matter what I had to do with my schedule here. I didn't have to really rearrange it. But then I knew there were going to be some days where I couldn't miss being here, or I was gonna have to, like, get someone to cover me, things like that. And at first I was reluctant to do that. Like, because I didn't know what the experience was going to be. I didn't know if I was going to like it. I didn't know how it was going to be. So I was a little reluctant to, like, get someone to cover me. So fast forward, once we're in the group, like week 2, 3 even, and I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I get this covered. So that's kind of like a snippet of, like, I went from how fast it went from I don't want to do this to, okay, I got to make sure I get this covered, or I got to make sure that I can be there because I don't want to miss what's happening in this group. And these are people that I had never met a single one of these people in this group except for Wes and my wife. That was it. And they're just like, they're wonderful. And I look forward, even now, like Sundays, we go to the 9:15, and most of them go to the 11, and it's like, but I like long for that, just that passing, even just to say, hey, give them a hug and see what's going on in their life. And so when I had to miss, I think I only missed one class, and it was towards the beginning. And I remember thinking, because that first one was so impactful and just so, like, how is it that your story lines up with mine and yours lines up with theirs and this and that? How did that happen? And so I didn't want to miss. And it was like the second week that I had to miss. And I sat here, like, the whole time I was at work, and I was just like, I need to be in that class right now. I need to be there. Everyone in that group had a commitment after that, like, first week, and it was like, really, it showed that they wanted to be there, and it hurt when they weren't. we all seemingly looked different coming into this. Like, there's no way we're gonna have to like be able to connect and make this work. And then we started telling our stories, and it's just like, and as much as people, like, it is kind of weird to like talk about yourself a lot, like, and getting past that barrier, but I think people they want to be understood. They want to, you know, feel like they're not alone. And that's kind of what Rooted, for me, I will say that that's the biggest takeaway for Rooted for me, was learning that I wasn't the only one going through whatever it was at the time. And then out of that, because we're starting to talk and tell our story and open up and get to know each other and not feel like strangers in a group, we got to see growth, and we get to see like, these individuals like grow and want to be able to experience God in a different way, in a more personal way. But in that group, like that 10 weeks, like, you know, we got to know these people really well, and they're like our closest friends now. So it's, yeah, just learning, that the differences are vast, but yet, because of Rooted and because of this group and because of the church, we have something in common.